Before moving on, let's turn to the review questions that are on page 7 of the text. I also have the first one up here because what I want you to do is take out part of the assignment is to actually answer some of these questions. So now what I want you to do is in your own words, a couple of sentences. This is, remember we first started out with the exercises that were at the end of the last segment. You were commenting on number 3 and number 4, argument number 3 and number 4. So now we're going to start, it's going to be, well, we could call this exercise set what or whatever. But what I'd like you to do is answer this first question that you now see on the screen, and it's on page 7. That's, how does logical thinking differ from the scientific disciplines that study reasoning? What do they study in those scientific disciplines, and what is done differently in logical thinking? So take a second, you can stop it here and answer that question and save it in your document. So hit the pause on this YouTube, and when you're done with that, come back and we will move on to covering some new material. Now the new material we want to start looking at has to do with inferences, and we're going to talk about what the book terms strength of inferences. Now notice we were talking about inferences it's a relationship between certain assumptions we make and certain beliefs that we come to based on those assumptions. But let's consider a couple of inferences so we can have an example of what we're looking at, strength. And first of all, we should bear in mind that what we're going to see is that we can have strong inferences, weak inferences, or failed inferences. And these are really, the strength of an inference is a central concept in logical thinking. We want to be able to think about arguments and think, are the inferences that we're making strong or strongly supported? Are they weak or they're failed? And to understand what these characteristics are, let's consider 3 arguments. The first one, all whales are mammals, and Moby Dick is a whale, therefore Moby Dick is a mammal. Now think about that for a second. Strong, weak, or failed? Well, maybe you're not sure. I mean, it sounds like, gee, if we assume those two, or those first 2 clauses to be true, that all whales are mammal, Moby Dick is a whale, it looks that those 2 things pretty strongly support the inference to the claim that Moby Dick is a mammal. Sounds that way, but let's think about that versus no oranges from Florida are small, therefore no oranges from the United States are small. You think about it, well wait, no oranges from Florida are small does support that claim that no oranges from the United States are small. But the question is, how strongly does it support it? And we think about it, just let's think about some facts. Oranges are grown in California also. I think those are the 2 major states, and let's just assume. So, not all oranges from the United States are from Florida, but the fact that no oranges from Florida are small, it gives you at least some reason to infer that no oranges from the United States are small. So it looks like that's not quite as strong an inference, as good an inference as our first case about the whales, but nonetheless there is some relationship between oranges from Florida and oranges from the United States, so that inference is supported. Now let's consider a third example. No oranges are apples, therefore all elms are trees. Now remember, we don't care whether these claims, these beliefs are true. We're talking, remember, the inference is the relationship between the 2. Well, what's the relationship between no oranges or apples and all elms are trees? There's no relationship. They're not connected at all. So notice what we now see is we now have some of examples. Example number one, strong inference, right? All whales are mammals, Moby Dick is a whale. Well, if those two things are true, that third thing has to be true. Strong inference. Second one, weak inference. Not, not a completely bad inference, but it's okay inference, but certainly not strong like that first one. That is, no oranges from Florida small, therefore no oranges from the United States are small. And finally, the last inference is from the fact no oranges or apples, you can't conclude anything about all elms being tree, yes or no. As it's a failed inference. The question is, there's no connection. What's the connection between the assumptions and the beliefs that you're trying to add? Nothing. So the inference looks like it is a failed inference. So notice now we can have inferences come in three strengths at least, right? We have strong inferences, weak inferences, and failed inferences. Okay, and with that, let's now turn to part two of the now let's turn to some of the exercises on page 7, part 2. So I think next what I'd like you to do is spend a minute and answer the first three questions here. First, construct two inferences. Right. Put two together. Don't copy ones that you've seen. Make up your own. Then after it, construct a strong inference, one in which the supporting beliefs, if the supporting beliefs are true, then the supporting belief must be true, like the one that we used in the example. And do number 3 also. Construct a weak inference, one which the supporting beliefs could be true, and the beliefs, one in which the supporting beliefs could be true and the belief they're intended to support false. But remember, we don't want it to be a failed inference, so that we want it to at least support it a little bit. And finally, do number 4 also. Construct a blatantly failed inference. Okay, so you guys do that. Next thing on your document, and keep in mind we're keeping all of the answers in the same document. When you're done with this, you can turn to the next video.